Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, Montana begins to open up as soon as this Sunday. Exactly 4 weeks after he issued a stay-at-home order, Governor Steve Bullock announces plans to lift that directive and get the state's economy moving slowly, carefully, and strategically. Well, Governor Bullock says Montanans have made major sacrifices, and because of that, we're seeing a decline in confirmed coronavirus cases, unlike many other states. But he also says just because he's opening the state does not mean the virus is done, and we all need to be careful. Here's a look at the key dates announced today. Beginning this Sunday, April 26th, the statewide stay-at-home order will be lifted. Now, that includes places of worship. Then Monday, April 27th, Main Street and retail businesses can open. 1 week later, on Monday, May 4th, restaurants, bars, breweries, distilleries, and casinos may open. The governor saying those employees need more training. And then on Thursday, May 7th, school boards and school districts all across the state can choose to open or continue education online. Of course, all of these openings must happen within safety and social distancing guidelines. Well, we begin tonight's team coverage with Q2's Russ Riesinger, who is taking a look at some of the key highlights of the plan and has more on what will be opening and what won't.
Well, Governor Bullock laying out the details of the reopening the Big Sky plan at a news conference this afternoon. The governor saying that there is reason for optimism, but not celebration, and that Montanans will still have to go to great lengths to protect each other because he says once we are open, we want to stay open.
Starting this Sunday, the stay-at-home order will be lifted. Now, that doesn't mean it's time for the celebratory block party or big barbecue.
But come Sunday, churches will be able to open if they want. And on Monday, Main Street businesses can open their doors with a number of stipulations. Health assessments must be done on employees, and physical distancing of 6 feet must be maintained between customers. Some of the other highlights: senior living and assisted living facilities must continue to prohibit visitors. Child care facilities, organized youth activities, and outdoor recreation can open, but gyms and theaters must remain closed. Personal care, such as getting a haircut, will be possible again on Monday, but with strict guidelines. A week later, on May 4th, restaurants, bars, and casinos can reopen, but with strict rules.
Restaurants can operate at most at half of the regular capacity. No more than 6 people can sit together. And there has to be plenty of space between tables. You won't be able to sit at the bar to drink. And all customers will have to be out of the establishment during this first phase by 11:30 p.m.
Schools can resume, but Bullock is leaving that up to local school boards to decide. And those traveling into the state must continue to quarantine for 14 days.
I recognize that our tourism industry is hurting. But as Montanans have worked so hard to stop the spread of this virus, this first phase of reopening isn't yet the time to allow others to come into our state. As I've said before, our new normal is going to look different.
A number of other considerations must be taken before Montana can move on to the next phase, but the hope is that this will begin the process of moving towards some semblance of normal while also minimizing the risk of resurgence. In Billings, I'm Russ Riesinger reporting for MTN News.
Well, there's much more information on reopening in this story on our website, KTVQ.com, and you can see the Governor Bullock's full plan for reopening and what it will look like. That, too, is at KTVQ.com. Well, all this as we report 2 more coronavirus-related deaths this evening. Flathead County reports its second COVID-related death today, and another life has been lost in Toole County, bringing the total there to 6. Across the state, 14 people have died, and 2 new confirmed cases are reported. This brings the state total to 439. More than half of those individuals are recovered at 296. Well, students, teachers, and parents all across the state have been waiting in anticipation to find out how their school year will end. Governor Bullock today marking May 7th, 2 weeks from tomorrow, that defining day. Bullock has opted to give that control and decision to local school districts. Q2's Mitch Laggy joins us now with what that means here in Billings. Mitch.
Governor Bullock said he plans to give local control to local school boards as to the decision on whether or not to reopen for the remainder of the school year. In an update video today, Billings School District 2 Superintendent Greg Upham said he would like that decision made as soon as possible. Judging from the comments on School District 2's social media, parents and students in Billings are anxious for a decision. This as some students have struggled to learn in an online classroom. At a school board meeting Monday, Superintendent Upham said that he does not support returning students to the classroom. Upham reasoned that the risk for disease spread is too great because social distancing isn't practical for 19,000 Billings students and teachers. And again, Upham said that he would like the decision on whether or not to bring students back to be reached as soon as possible, but it's in school board trustees' hands now. Reporting at home in Billings, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Mitch. Now, thanks. The Billings high school graduation ceremonies, Mitch says, are still up in the air. Well, smaller school districts may find it easier to comply with social distancing if they choose to bring kids back to the classroom, but some have already made the decision to close for the remainder of the school year. Lockwood Schools announced Monday it would close, and today Pioneer Elementary School north of Billings has also made that decision to close. The Huntley Project superintendent tells Q2 that administrators are weighing options and should have a decision made by Tuesday. Schools in Laurel and Shepherd have not yet decided. And on the sports scene, the MHSA also taking action following the governor's announcements today. It will cancel spring sports throughout the state. Scott will have the full story along with reaction later in sports. Well, today's announcement allows for churches to hold services this Sunday. Many churches have been holding services online, and some have found other creative ways to connect with their congregations. The governor's directive says that places of worship can have reduced capacity and strict physical distancing. The Montana Pastors Network sent a letter to the governor last weekend and is happy the order allows for more than 10 people in one place as long as there's appropriate physical distancing.
We're very thankful that he has allowed churches to meet in groups of more than 10. As long as strict guidelines are in place, those churches that are large enough to allow for larger groups are free to do that. And our churches are going to abide by those guidelines. They'll be thrilled to be able to get back together again.
And we also talked with Bishop Michael Warfel of the Catholic Diocese of Great Falls Billings. He will talk with his priest tomorrow and also expects churches will hold services on Sunday. Well, Governor Bullock's phased-in reopening of Montana's businesses community provides a blueprint to restart the state's economy. Well, Main Street and retail businesses can open April 27th, but they must adhere to new capacity limits and maintain strict physical distancing again. Here in Billings, Big Sky Economic Development and Riverstone Health are partnering to provide guidance to local business owners on how to develop those specific plans. Steve Arviskow at Big Sky EDA tells Q2 the new Safe Open campaign will also include a public education effort. Arviskow says a Friday press conference is planned to outline the specifics of that. Restaurants, bars, breweries, distilleries, and casinos will be the next businesses to open 1 week later on Monday, May 4th. Now, among some of the downtown businesses more than ready to open their doors this coming Monday are hair salons. Q2 spoke with the manager of Bishop's Cuts and Color, Katrina Erb, who says only 30 minutes after Governor Steve Bullock's press conference this afternoon, the calls for appointments came flooding in. Now, Bishop's will limit the number of customers in the shop to 10 people at a time, and employees will stagger their schedules.
I can't imagine what my staff is dealing with right now, but within half an hour of the announcement that we could open Monday, I had about 75 messages from clients asking if they could get in, if I could book them today, like what my schedule looks like.
The shop will also stick to its strict cleaning and sanitation guidelines. Well, as federal dollars start to trickle down, we are learning where that money is going. Now, airports are struggling to make budget through this pandemic, but a much-needed boost from the CARES Act will help. But tonight, as Q2's Andrea Lutz reports, that money doesn't seem to be evenly spread.
Well, definitely a different scene here at the Billings Airport than even just a few months ago. Really no planes out on the airfield here, which is really different for this time of year normally. Obviously, the Billings Airport is feeling the pain, but federal stimulus dollars could help.
When we saw the amount of the CARE grant that came in, went, okay, now we can actually continue down the path we were going.
The CARES Act was kind to Billings, gifting some $12 million to help get through the downturn from the coronavirus.
So what we will do is just take those operating costs, package them up each month, and do a drawdown on that grant against it to cover them.
Kevin Plone with the airport says they'll use this money to stay afloat.
It'll keep us basically net zero.
Out of Montana, the Billings Airport got the second highest amount of money from the CARES Act behind Bozeman, which got about $15 million. But what's caught many by surprise is Cody, Wyoming.
We were stunned when we got that much money.
That's where some $18 million came down in federal stimulus dollars to an airport belonging to a town of some 9,000 residents.
We don't have any debt, and that was one of the key components. And we're a growth airport. We're the fastest growing airport in Wyoming.
Bucky Hall is chair of the board for the Yellowstone Regional Airport. He says Cody was once an oil town and is now a tourism hotspot.
We're 50 miles away from the park. We have a world-class museum here that's a destination for people. And between that and being the east entrance of the park, and we're kind of sort of the entrance to the northeast entrance where Cook City, Montana is.
They'll use their federal dollars to also maintain operating costs while also starting future projects now.
We have projects for 5, 6, 7 years out. And basically, this money allows us to do all those projects right away.
And the same is true for Billings. Remember that nearly $60 million airport expansion they've been talking about? Well, Plone says all of that was up in the air just a few weeks ago.
If we can build this project this year, when the numbers are low, I think we come out ahead all the way around.
In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
And Andrea says each airport isn't sure when the money will come in or be available for use. The FFA did tell airports they cannot use the money to recruit new airlines. You can catch all of the MTN Rebound stories on our website, KTVQ.com. We will be running Rebound stories every weekday as we highlight the efforts of Montana businesses as they get back on their feet. In other news tonight, we now know the name of the pilot who died in Monday morning's plane crash just north of Billings. Sheriff Mike Linder says Lloyd Gerber of Billings died when the PA-31 Piper twin-engine airplane went down after it took off from Billings Logan International Airport. Now, the crash happened at around 10 o'clock on the Billings Rod and Gun Club property. Linder says investigators have finished up at the scene and cleanup is now underway. Up next on tonight's 5:30 News, a look at the 2020 Republican gubernatorial candidates and their approach to help guide the state's economic recovery. Plus, a busy day in sports. Scott has the latest on cancellation of your high school spring season and hears from new Lady Grizz basketball coach Mike Petrino.
And coming up in weather, well, it looks like our weather pattern is getting ready to change. We're going to see some scattered cloudy skies rolling into Billings tonight, rain in western Montana, but when will the rain get here? We'll have the answer coming up in a few more minutes.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.